On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 1962. We're going to be taking a look at Louis Armstrong, and he's going to be performing When the Saints Go Marching In. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So this request was sent in with a mind to look at Louis' voice, but his trumpet playing as well, and maybe see some similarities between the two. So we'll look out for those. We'll have the pitch monitoring software up on screen as well, and it does pick up a little bit of Louis' trumpet, which is great, as well as Jewel Brown's backing vocals, but we will jump into this. I'm going to leave this quote, which is great, from Duke Ellington at the beginning of the video, and we'll get into the performance. Let's see how they get on.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's one you all can sing with us. When the Saints Go Marching In. Folks, everybody sing. Now when the saints go marching in. Now when the saints go marching in. Yes, I want to be in that number. When the saints go marching in. Sing it again. Now when the saints marching in. Now when the saints go marching in. Yes, I want to be in that number. When the saints go marching in. Ah, y'all sing pretty out there. Joe Darringburg. A beautiful audience out there swinging with us. On behalf of Jewel Brown, Billy Kyle, Joe Darringburg, Trumpet Young, Billy Crunk, Danny Barcelona, little Filipino boy on the drums, little Arabian boy saxophone. We are very happy to have sung this number for you folks. It's cutting out time now. Before we cut out from here, let's take them saints on down one more time. Now I win the saints. Watch it. Whoa, boy. When the saints go chilling. Yes, I found something in that number. Hit it when the saints go by chilling.
And there we have it. I was planning on jumping into that at some point, but there's just so much going on. Great musicianship the whole way through, and we've got so many lead lines instrumentally that are going on, because when you listen to most mainstream music, you've always got a focal point, whether that be the lead vocal right in the middle, and then you've got the rhythm work going on with the other instruments. And when you have a lead solo, such as a guitar solo, that will just be the focus, and you have the rhythm behind. Whereas with this setup, with this jazz orientated sound, you get lead lines that are just taking your ear in so many different directions, because you want to listen to one, then another one pops in, and then you get a little call and response that happens between the trumpet and the trombone, and there's so much that you can dive into in this kind of performance. So that's why I kept it going the whole way, because we'll just look at it as a whole, because if you break it down piece by piece, we'll be here for years. So I'll just take it back to emphasize this point, because if you're listening to this through headphones or through stereo speakers, it means that you'll hear in the right ear the clarinet with the different lead lines going on there. The trumpet and the trombone, I believe, are mixed more centrally, but have a listen to everything going on and try and decipher which instrument's doing what. So we've basically got the piano pretty much supplying what would be classed as the rhythm. I mean, it's really understated, really subtle, but the piano isn't going off into lead sections. It's more just playing voicings of chords, maybe an occasional sus4 or sus2. It's just filling in that space underneath these lead instruments. Of course, the trumpet, Louis' trumpet, is going to be playing the lead melody and just extemporizing around that melody, but then we've got the other instruments that, of course, the bass is just running, rolling all over the place, which is great, but still really solid. The trombone, again, just putting in responses to the main line with the trumpet, and the clarinet pretty much sounds like it's going on its own journey, which is great because it means that you can watch this performance multiple times and every time you'll get something new from it. But let's listen to what Louis does on his trumpet. So jumping into that, we know from the other videos that having a wider vibrato is going to make it sound more dramatic. And on the trumpet here, Louis can't just take a note and just tweak it, 5, 10, 15 cents to get a really subtle vibrato. He could play the note straight, of course, but what he does is pedal between actually the note and then 2 semitones above. So if we listen to this again in slow motion, you can hear the na. There's a semitone that's between the 2 notes he's hitting, therefore 2 semitones apart, and that's what's going to give it such a dramatic sound. Well, listen to the next phrase. I think here he holds on a bit longer. We'll listen to it in slow motion. There we can hear it really clearly, that na. But because he's pedaling between those notes very quickly, it has that approach, it has that appearance of vibrato, even though we're hitting two notes independently. And that's exactly what's happening with vocals, but you're sliding between those notes rather than they go, nah. My voice is wanted to go, nah, the octave higher, which, I can do, but probably better to keep it a little bit lower, so that na. Those pedaling between notes with a voice would be na, na, like that. So it would be quite dramatic. It feels like it's a little bit too far to go with vibrato, because when you go ah, just a semitone feels comfortable, so then go na now sounds a lot more dramatic. But that's the point with Louis' trumpet playing. It's the drama, it's standing out, it's unique, it's standalone, it's giving the trumpet a voice, and that's how he achieves it. So let's jump into a bit of vocal.
Come on, folks, everybody sing. Now when the saints go marching in, now when the saints go marching in, yes, I want to be in that number. I when the saints go marching in. Sing it again. Now when the saints marching in. Now when the saints go marching in.
And we do get a bit of Jules' vocal there. If I take it back, we can see on the pitch monitoring software this G-sharp 5 that she's just nailing, and the F-sharp 5 as well. But talking about Louis' voice, he is the very definition of a vocalist who sang exactly how he spoke. And that's how so many of the great vocalists throughout the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s and 70s, you can pretty much keep on going. But the vocalists that we've analysed on the channel who have that vocal quality of just telling a story so well, they're just using their talking voice but hitting pitches with it. And you can also hear how when Louis is talking, especially addressing the crowd, he's got a fair amount of breath support going on already just in his talking voice. And I think a lot of that is to do with playing the trumpet and having that breath control, which is essential for playing the instrument well. So it means that because he had that ability, he just applies the same principles to his singing voice. It's just a case of hitting pitches, which, I mean, that's a totally different thing in itself to have the ability to do that, but then apply a really subtle bit of vibrato to his voice that can be quite wide, but it's right at the end of a phrase. So it means that you don't hear it dramatically, like, no, when the saints, not like that. It's more like, and applying a bit of compression, you'll get, oh, when the saints, like that. It's right at the end. No, when the saints, and it might be a little bit wider. Obviously, I can't do Louis' voice because my voice sits a lot higher. It's totally different tonally, but the way that he just throws in that subtle vibrato at the end shows that he's got an appreciation of that, not only when he's playing trumpet, where he pedals between that tone, the tone's worth of notes, but when he's singing. So we're just listening to a little bit more of Louis' trumpet, and now we know that his effective vibrato on the instrument is going up a tone. Listen out for that wobble, because you'll be able to distinguish exactly where it is. I love the way that he just applied it right at the end of that line. Such cool lines going on here. Just right at the end there. And there, a really clear example of those notes that he's flipping between, and he's just exaggerating a bit more now. So by slowing it down, you get to hear the notes more clearly. The faster they are, the more they blend into one. So that's how he's ending a phrase. When he played that line before, he ended it with a quick vibrato, which means that he's just going from one note to the next quickly. But then when he wants to exaggerate it a bit, just like he did there, that you can hear, because it's slower, and especially because I slowed it down, you can hear that exactly what's going on. Really interesting too. Listen to it in slow motion, because it really does break down the technique and gives you an appreciation as to how he achieved his sound on trumpet. Just a quick word about Jewel Brown on the backing vocals, but some of the lines that she's hitting, she is so precise with her tuning. And if you do get a chance to watch any other performances by Jewel, and in this particular performance in 1962, she did sing at least one song by herself that I've seen, and her voice is just faultless. Her technique, at the end of this song, she goes, I think, an octave higher, and it's going to be, I think, the G sharp 5. I'm not sure. We'll have to go all the way to the end of the performance. But the other thing is the way that she's putting on a show. She's being entertaining. She's at the disadvantage here of not having an instrument in her hands. And this can be something that when you are performing, and guitarists will be able to relate to this, that you just feel more comfortable having an instrument in your hands, because then your hands have something to hold. When you don't have anything in your hands, people often say, I don't know what to do with my hands, because it can be awkward, especially for an instrumentalist who then doesn't have it. But it's great here that Jewel is just clapping, getting into the performance and putting a lot of the entertainment value into it. Of course, Louis' personality, the way that he plays, just demands your attention the whole time. But it's great here as well to have somebody on stage who's putting on a show and not looking awkward. She's really getting into it and providing us with an amazing vocal performance. But let's have a quick look at the ending again to hear this final note by Jewel.
Hit it when you say, oh, my dear.
And there we have it. Such flawless vocal technique, and it looks like the pitch monitoring software did try to map that out. It was indeed a D sharp 6 that she's hitting there. So on our ranges on the piano that we can see, these are the male ranges. So when we're talking about Louis' voice, he's going to be in that baritone range, you know, the whole time. But let me just get the female ranges up on screen, because the D sharp 6, this is our, let me get the little arrow, our D6 here. So the D sharp 6 is just a semitone higher, and you'll see that that's just past the top of the soprano range, so at the top end of the soprano range. So it means that pretty much up here we're talking about whistle voice territory for most women, and she is so clean with her vocal cord connection. And she is covering one hell of a range. This is in G sharp, A flat as our key for the song. So it means that we're going to be covering at least a couple of octaves, and you get the impression that Jewel just had range to burn. Like, she could go to any note she wanted to, especially here at the end of the performance, but just throughout this whole performance. And if you watch her perform vocally just by herself, you'll see the way that she can just flip into her head voice really cleanly, back down into chest voice, and then it seems like she's got a handle on the whistle register as well, or she might just have the ability to take her head voice that high. But anyway, just massively impressive. But Louis Armstrong was certainly one of those who had his own voice through his instrument, but had such a distinctive voice of his own, because he didn't try and change it. He wasn't trying to be anybody else but himself, and therefore it gave it that conversational quality that you can relate to so much. But thank you guys for requesting this video for me to take a look at. A little bit different tonight to looking at trumpet, but there was a fair amount of vocals to analyze as well. Keep those suggestions and requests coming in the comment section below. As always, let me know what you guys think. And if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!